Hi guys, welcome back to the Improvement Season podcast. It is me, Steve Hall, and on the other end, Pascal Floor and Kaio, who we probably won't see, but we might hear in the background. I don't know. Is he a noisy boy?
King Kai. He's in the background. So for all of the listeners, because now you've spoiled it already, we have a puppy now. So he's 13 weeks old now. He's a Labrador, and he's going to be humongous, I think, because his paws, his front-facing paws, are just like huge. And even the doctor said, like, okay, he's going to be a big one. Wait a second. So if I'm just a little bit distracted at times, it's just because the puppy is up here.
Labrador. So, I thought it was you were going to go for a golden retriever, right?
No, I was always kind of, if a Labrador, then it needs to be kind of look alike, like a golden retriever. Okay. So something in that direction. Yeah,
it's funny. Yeah. You never had, did you have a dog as a kid or cats or pets?
When I was very, very young, we had a dog, but I was so young that I can't even recall. I just know it from pictures. And all the other animals that we had at home were kind of tarantula. Yeah, and then 2 exotic birds.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's interesting. I know I spoke my tattoo artist. He has a tarantula, and I learned quite a bit about tarantulas. 2 days ago now. I didn't realize they got so big and they lived for so long, depending if you have male or female or whatever. So.
But it's also, if you're not really into it, and I, as a kid, of course, it was just like a very freaking boring animal that was kind of in that glass box.
They didn't do anything.
Because there are some very interesting YouTube channels of people who are into owning different types of tarantulas, and they make it, of course, very fancy and very interesting. And they have kind of also like a time-lapse window where then they are building their nest and all that kind of stuff. Super interesting. But when you have one at home and you're not really into it, or you're a kid, it's just like a very, very boring animal.
Yeah. And I think he said his hasn't been handled like since he's had it. So if you do, like, you have to be careful with it because it's aggressive as fuck. Like,
depending on the type, isn't it?
Oh, okay.
Because
I don't know.
Some can really they stand up on their front on the back heels, back legs, and they just try to enlarge themselves to look even more dangerous.
They creep the shit out of me, to be honest. Like spiders in general, I find creepy as shit.
Yeah, I don't know. So everything when it comes to insects, I'm not the biggest fan of either. No. No, it's just not my thing.
But I'm very excited for you and having the dog and everything. So yeah. You were saying we're. Is it just like a passage of life? I don't know, but we're very similar. I think. I just need to get kids now, and then
I don't know what it is, Steve. I was thinking the same thing before we even started talking, that everything is very similar, and to the outsiders it's just like, what the fuck is wrong with these guys? They should be a couple, actually.
So oh dear. And I have to, I don't really I've already apologized to Pascal, but yesterday we were meant to record yesterday and I was essentially out of action, which is it's just so interesting to me, the stress response the body goes through with various things. And as the listeners already know, last week, I think I mentioned I was already sick and I was taking an active rest. And so I'd already been off the gym for almost a week at this point. And I felt like I was like 90% of the way recovered. My sleep hasn't been great. I don't know what it is, but when you're sick, you can probably appreciate this, Pascal. You get more... The symptoms kick in more in the mornings and in the evenings. So when I go to bed, like my cough just starts kicking in. I'm like, Jesus, this is annoying. Now I can't sleep because of the cough.
For me, it's the other way around most of the time. That in the morning, I actually feel good. And then sometimes that gives me false hope. I then maybe prematurely go into the gym, making matters worse. And then if I didn't go to the gym, I would realize it then by the evening that I wouldn't have been ready anyway.
Mine, middle of the day, I seem to be best, and then morning and evenings, I like start regressing again. But anyway, I felt pretty good and like got the tattoo and everything, and I was feeling fine throughout almost all of it. the last couple of hours always suck a little bit when you've got a full day going, because your body starts realizing it's under attack by fucking all these knives or whatever, or needles. And then I normally feel pretty crummy after it, but like this was acutely worse than what COVID was for me, and that's the sickest I've ever felt. And I was just like on the train home, I was like I couldn't, the lights were like I had to close my eyes. I don't even know how to say it. They were just irritating me. Yeah, it was just, light was irritating. Like I had every symptom of like illness you could imagine. I felt nauseous. I thought I was like, there was various moments I thought I was going to have to go to the train toilet to be sick. I was having like shivers, hot and cold. I was like, man, do I normally feel this bad after getting a tattoo? I think every time you forget how bad tattoos can feel sometimes and how you feel afterwards. But I definitely have never felt this bad before. I messaged you just before I was going to bed. I was like, man, if I feel this bad in the morning, I am no good to anyone. Like I was like, I can't work like this. And then in the morning, I kind of looked into it, and there's like this thing called like tattoo flu or whatever. Like it's a thing that people experience, and it should pass relatively quickly. So anyway, by about midday yesterday, I felt pretty decent again, which is unfortunate because I had to cancel for you, and I cancelled Pat Davidson on the podcast as well, where he actually was later than that, so we could have done it, but I'd already cancelled on him, so he was already kind of not like he already thought we weren't doing it. So that was super frustrating, but it's just the crazy immune response you get to such things, and I guess my immune system was already compromised, so then it was like trying to fight two things, and it was just like, that's why I felt so shit. So anyway, if there's any lessons to be learned, I remember not long ago when you were getting your tattoo, you were like, I don't want to be sick going and getting it. And I remember thinking, I mean, being sick wouldn't be ideal. You don't be sitting there being like coffee and stuff, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. And now I'm like, man, I was like almost over my sickness, and still it like knocked me for 6. So that's my kind of lesson, is I'm never getting a tattoo when sick again.
I guess I was more so lucky that I was feeling the way that I did. Because I tried to kind of get rid of that or fight it off for like, I think 2 weeks prior to the tattoo appointment. Yeah. So perhaps that was kind of the luck that I've experienced. But for you, of course, maybe you were just in that super vulnerable position of every kind of prick bursted kind of the bubble.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing that highlighted it for me was how bad I was feeling, as I said to you, because I was just thinking about, I was looking at my fitness pal, because I track everything. And I was like, man, I plugged in some food that I hadn't even eaten that day. I was like, I've had less than 2,000 calories. I've had 100 grams of protein, and I can't eat. I hadn't eaten since like 3 p.m. that day. I was like, I'm not going to hit my protein today. When was the last time I didn't hit my protein? Literally like a decade ago. Yeah. Like I can't even remember. Ever since I've been tracking my fitness pal, I don't think I've missed my protein intake. I was like, fuck, I'm not going to hit it. And it was kind of, I don't know, it kind of felt a bit scary in a way. I was like, man, what's going to happen? Obviously nothing's going to happen. And I just had to accept it. I was like, man, this is not ideal. I'm not training, haven't trained in a week, and I'm missing my protein, and I'm going to be in a big calorie deficit. The like last couple of days I've been in probably a hefty calorie deficit, and I'm just like, man, I'm just going to have to, you have to focus on health, number one. Exactly. And that's what kind of allowed me to get through it.
My initial thoughts are just these. You just said it in that sentence. You haven't missed your protein target in decades, basically, already, right? And if then it happens once out of 10 years, it's not really that big of a deal. Right? No, and even like 1 week where you're knocked out or so is also not that big of a deal, because you've ticked off, what is it then? 52 times 10, right? 520 weeks, 510 weeks over the past 10 years then, right? So it's kind of a minuscule thing then, if you really think about it.
It's so insignificant. But I do find it interesting. I don't know if you find this when you're doing active rest sometimes, where it sometimes makes you a bit looser with your nutrition, especially when you're aiming for maintenance and it feels a bit nebulous. And I just find myself like, it becomes quite easy to not go to the gym. And I'm just like, I just can fill that time with going for another walk or doing more work. I'm like, the gym just isn't there anymore. So like, I love going to the gym, but it's a bit uncomfortable missing it for the first few days, but then you kind of get used to it for a few days when you're busy. And then you're like, oh man, it's going to take a bit of time to get used to going again, and it will take no time. But yeah, it's just a weird one.
Getting back to it and getting used to it again doesn't really require a lot of time.
No.
However, I do definitely understand where it is that you're coming from, and it's also something that I've experienced in the past, because it always makes you realize how much time it is that you actually spend with training and nutrition, and that life could be, I don't know if easier is the right thing to name it or to term it, but you would have so much more time available for other things, because on the rest days, I'm getting up in the morning and I'm not going to the gym, and then I start working, and often I end up working from 4 or 5 in the morning to then 5 in the evening or so, just because of that.
I can totally see it, because in my head, training is only, well, it depends on where I am within the mesocycle, but it's, and what session it is, but it's like 45 minutes up to maybe 2 hours max, and that's quite rare that it goes that long, which on its own isn't that much time. But then I think it's the preparing for the gym, the pre-workout meal, the post-workout meal, the like whatever it is, just the mental strain it puts on you, preparing mentally for it, then recovering from it mentally. It's like it actually takes out, it isn't just that acute time that you spend in the gym, it's all the time preparing for it. And luckily my commute is minuscule, so that doesn't impact it. But if you have a commute on top of it as well, that could add another hour onto things. It's like, oh wow, that's a chunk of your day. You could have watched a lot of anime, or you could have done like 4 more client check-ins or whatever it is.
This is also why I do understand when people have other priorities, because for us, the gym, I think it has just become so ingrained for our daily schedule and business that we don't even think about it anymore. We don't even question it, what kind of priority it has. It's just somewhere in the top range of our priority list. And I do understand then, or can at least understand, when people don't really have that in their top priority list, and other things then take up that space. And it's more like, oh, this time I missed 2 training sessions, or I didn't even train at all. And it is hard to understand, but also when you really try to have an unbiased opinion on it, I do then realize and understand it.
Yeah, it's probably for people who don't train or do other things. Like I think about training a dog, for example. Like they're like, oh, come on, like you can just spend an hour a day training your dog or whatever. And once it's not a routine or habit, just like training, it gets a little bit more challenging to commit to that. And like it is only an hour a day, but it's like you only have so much capacity to do. Sometimes you need to switch off, and it's like, okay, you have to pick and choose what you're going to do. And some people are probably better at that than others. But anyway, that's how my last week has basically gone. It's not been feeling on top of the world at all. I feel so much better today. I can't even believe how much better.
Are you feeling better today, and how are things now?
Yeah, my digestion is still a bit weird. It was quite nice yesterday because I ate once. It was about from midday. I felt pretty normal, like appetite-wise and eating food-wise. It's been quite nice. My digestion's been a bit more regular. But yesterday I still ate, I think, just under 3,000 calories, which is probably a bit of a deficit for me. But I'm just like, I'm not going to force it. I'm going to make sure to hit my protein and eat to hunger, basically.
You then... On that note, sorry to interrupt you there, Steve, because I just remember what it is that we've discussed and talked about in the previous episode about the plan of going to around maintenance, sticking around there for a while, and then head over to something else.
So I kind of consolidated it a little bit, I think, because I've had my week off, which is like that active rest, and then I'm going to have 4 days of deload. So where I'd normally take 2 weeks for that sort of thing, I'm just making it shorter by taking, what would it be, like 1.5 weeks essentially, or just over 1.5 weeks. And then I'll get from Monday, I think, given how my appetite is, it's going to be a mini cut kind of despite what I do anyway, in some sense, or at least it's going to be a cut. So I was just like, I might as well start the mini cut from Monday. It's going to, luckily, because I've had this week off, hopefully I've got a bit of resensitization. The volume's going to need to be like pretty low for the mini cut anyway. And I can just kind of roll through a mini cut for 3-4 weeks. And then hopefully by that point, feel pretty good. I haven't weighed in for a bit of chunk of time because I'm just like, I don't even want to see it. Cause I'm like, it's just not, again, it's going to be bad data. I know it's going to be, part of me feels like it might not be a low weigh-in, which is why I want to weigh in. I might surprise myself and it might not be as bad as I think it could be. I hope it's in the 190s because if I've dropped more than 5 pounds, I'm Like, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, that's ridiculous. I think I'll be like 193, 194, which wouldn't be too bad. That's like 2 pounds down from my peak anyway. So somewhat expected from like losing glycogen and like from going 4,000 calories to like lower than that. So
it's interesting that you are going through something like this, because normally the type of person who does this, kind of being a little bit in the denial phase, is those people who are constantly overeating or knowing that they are gaining too quickly, but don't want to face reality, so that they have to then modify things, adjust things, and then by that even also admit that they've taken it too lax or loosely, and also admit that they now have to clean things up and eat probably also less calories overall. And now it's the other way around, which is very, very rare that someone is actually then talking about it.
Mine is literally the opposite. I'm worried that my weight's come down too much.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I haven't eaten enough. But it's like, again, I'm not, like yesterday, what did I have? Like I had, like this probably just sounds delicious. I had like protein oats with dark chocolate, almond butter and dates. And then I had a meal of like, what was it? The other meal? I can't even remember what I had. Like tuna, or I had tuna, frozen vegetables, and a glass of orange juice or something. So that wasn't particularly great. And then dinner was like, I don't know, I had 4 or 5 eggs with like a packet of Mexican rice and a pepper on the side or whatever. And then I had just a white chocolate cookie from Marks and Spencer's. I was like, all right. That's
to me, it doesn't really sound bad at all.
No, I mean, it's not bad.
I know that if you were to tell that to, I don't know, someone like Charlotte or Katie, it's like,
what the fuck?
I had a very, very nice day here of eating. Let me tell you about the meals that I had. And you name those things and they would just give you the looks of like, what is fucking wrong with you?
Yeah. That's what the big reason I'm looking forward to the mini cut is getting my digestion more under control. It becomes a real, you've had like gastric distress and it just causes so much discomfort through your day, how you feel generally, your well-being, and then in training as well. So I'm looking forward to eating some like, just like normal looking meals and like feeling good off that and not worrying about, oh, have I eaten too much fiber or is that food gonna like, I don't know, sit with me the wrong way or something? So I'm looking forward to that settling. I'm not like body composition wise, I haven't really looked at myself, but like I never get overly fat. Like I'm not concerned about that at all. And that's the frustration. Like I want to keep pushing up. Anyway, this is kind of the story for the last few weeks with me.
Yeah. And the listeners want to know, Steve, the tattoo, what did you get?
Oh yeah. So for those who haven't seen, I can't show it all because I've got a long sleeve top on because it's cold. I can show you at least. I can show you Kurama. Yeah. On the hand there, which actually quite similar style to yours. I had requested it to be side on like Shenron, but he was like, it will look better like flat face and his ears can then come back. Yeah, he was like, Kurama's ears are too big to have side on. They just like take up so much space. And actually, I love it like this. I think it's more bold and I prefer it to my other one. And then, we got Naruto doing... he's in Sage mode doing, what's it called? A multi-clone jutsu. And I love it because that's why I like the artist I've gone with now, probably similar to the guy you got to do your hands, is he draws it all himself. So he's doing like a pose. Like I've never seen Naruto do this pose where he's like got his head up. He's like this. And it's just like it's cool. So I'm really pleased with it. Although I am still like, should I have gone full color? Just because the color one.
If you have one style, then you need to stick with it. Otherwise, it looks very, very odd. If you have like black patches here, colorful patches here, unless it was intentional, because some people mix and blend it. But stick with one style, and you will be much, much happier.
Yeah, I think when I go color, it'll be at the upper arms. I think I'll do color upper arms because I definitely want to get some color at some point, and I think that'll be the way to do it. So I have, similar to my other arm, I have one little gap left where Jiraiya will go at some point, I think.
Do you not see the progress you would like? Are you sick of writing your own programs? Or perhaps you need some accountability in order to stick with a plan? Then it's time to start working with us. We at Revive Stronger offer a truly personalized coaching service. You'll get more than just an email with some macros or random cookie cutter program. With Revive Stronger, you will be the center of our attention. You will receive your own fully individualized training protocol alongside a customized nutritional strategy. We created the coaching around your needs, wants, personal preferences, and your own unique lifestyle. Every single week, we delve into your program in order to make appropriate adjustments so that we get the most out of your time and the best possible outcome. We help both female and male athletes to seriously change their body composition by adding more muscle mass and decreasing fat tissue. No matter if you're a competitive bodybuilder or just want to look better, if you need help with your progress and taking your physique to the next level, our coaching is for you. It's time to make a change. Sign up today and let's revive stronger.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then in regards then to training, you're planning and going back. When exactly?
So I might go in today for a lower body deload, just to kind of go through the motions and kind of get reacquainted with things. And I'll probably do one more, maybe tomorrow and then maybe Saturday as well. Just kind of, again, like deload, really light, low volume sessions, just to kind of make sure that I'm not going to get super sore like that first week back, because I have a feeling that might be the case considering how my nutrition's been and not having trained. And then I'll get back into like mini cut training from Monday. And it's just whether or not I want to, I don't know if you ever get to this point, Pascal, where you're like, I've been running some exercises for a while. Do I want to rotate them or do I not want to rotate them? It's like, I've given them due diligence, certainly done them long enough. But I'm like, am I bored of them? Like, I don't want to rotate them just from like psychological boredom, but still that's a thing. Like that, you might be more excited to go back to a hack squat or something. And I'm just like, yeah. So I think I'm going to keep my program pretty much the same because I think I'm getting too tempted to like make too many modifications. So I'm just like, nah, keep it relatively much the same. Rotate any movements that you really just are getting stale. But most of the stuff in there is like going pretty well. So I'm not making too many modifications. It'll still be push, legs, pull, push, legs, pull. Yeah. With delts 4 or 5 times a week. I think it will be 4 times.
And what delt movements are we talking about? Is it because I do remember that you wanted to play a little bit around with even overhead pressing at some point. Have you incorporated that or?
Yes, but I have it just once a week on my second push day, and I have it after my pressing and fly movement. So it's quite a bit of upper chest, as well as being some like side and obviously lots of anterior delt. So I have been doing that, but just once a week, kind of 2 to 3 sets on a machine overhead press, which I do like, but it does hit my upper chest a fair bit too. So I haven't done like strictly overhead pressing as per se, but I don't know about you, Pascal. I never get like a lateral delt pump from overhead pressing. It's not where I feel it.
I can't really recall because the last time that I did overhead pressing is such a long time ago. So the way that I like to see overhead pressing is primarily a tricep movement anyway, because this is, if you really think about it, if you go all the range of motion, right, going down here, and you just take a look at the video right now, there's a full elbow flexion going on, and then you come up and extend it overhead basically, right? And you can even feel, if you really extend it, that the tricep is pushing through. And often I find that the sticking point and something like overhead pressing, especially when you do it with a barbell, is somewhere around here, which is also very similar to the sticking point of something like a bench press, right? Off the chest or so is never really the issue. You always can move it a little bit. And I think that I played around, and this is ages ago, with the way that Jeff Alberts did it in the past of single arm dumbbell overhead press, because then you can really bring it here to the side, rotate your shoulders a little bit further to the outside and then come up. And this seems to have a little bit more of an effect on the delts. But still, I think that if you really weigh it against the other delt movements and also from a stimulus to fatigue ratio perspective, I think that all of the lateral raise variations trump it. And then you can't really have a good argument about having overhead press in there, or it's at least very, very hard to argue with it if you have a bunch of exercises that are just from a stimulus to fatigue perspective much, much better. Because what base do you then have to make that argument for overhead pressing?
Yeah, my triceps definitely get worked in that movement for sure. Particularly in the bottom position, I don't feel it so much. I get a big stretch across my chest, but it's probably because I pre-fatigue, which is done on purpose so that it isn't like triceps might be the limiting factor. But for me, I don't think it's a problem if I get more anterior delt growth. Like I think that's probably a good thing, just because of if I can emphasize any size on my shoulders that makes me look wider or even just bigger up top, like I just need more overall thickness here to draw the eye away from my waist. So that's kind of a very unique reason to why I'm using it. But it's actually funny because I see it the same with dips, where like overhead press is like, yeah, it's interior delt, or like maybe some upper chest, depending how you're doing it. Triceps, dips are very the same. Like it's where you're going to hit a bunch of chest and triceps. Like it's kind of the opposite movement. And sometimes I rotate those like overhead press or dips where it's like, well, the dips, you're going to get a bit more lower chest and triceps. With the overhead press, you're going to get a bit more upper chest and triceps. It's like there's sometimes a movement where I'm like, it's a bit of like hits a bunch, so I'm just going to rotate those every meso now and then where I want to hit more, because I'm like, well, I could do with more lower chest, I could do with more upper chest, like more anterior delt. So
I also like to incorporate something like dips. If someone has a weak chest from a physique perspective, and also you need to work on the arms as well, I think it's then a good combination to get in a little bit more volume and a different movement pattern and a different style. And I think that this way you can always then have a little bit more variability in your programming as well. And it's like you said, you can do all of the exercises. They will probably do something. And I think that this is also misinterpreted by many people when I, for example, say that rack pulls are probably not a good idea for something like hypertrophy. It's not that I'm saying like never ever do rack pulls. It's more like if you compare it to other exercises, it's also very hard to make an argument for rack pulls in comparison to other things.
Yeah.
With everything else in life, for example, as well, you weigh the pros against the cons. And if one thing makes much more sense, then you probably go with this one instead of choosing the shittier option, or maybe needing then that more of the shittier option or anything alike, right? Often we go with the one that makes the most sense to us. And here it is as well. And it's important, I think, to really detach yourself emotionally from exercises, because exercises, they won't really hug you back and give you the love and attention, right? So why do you do it to them in the first place, right? It's kind of a one-way streak here. And it doesn't, you're not going to benefit from that. What relationship are you, or have you ever seen where it's kind of just like giving love to someone else, but never really getting it in return? Doesn't really work out nicely, right? Rather go with the relationship that is kind of a mutual relationship, and the exercise also gives you kind of love and attention in the form of like a proper physique.
Yeah, I think about this. It's been something I've been thinking about that comes up every now and then. Sorry, like because on Instagram people post up. It's kind of similar to like someone posting up a bowl of blueberries and saying this is a superfood and superior to any other fruit, and you shouldn't eat any other fruit, you should just have blueberries or whatever. It's like, well, sure, blueberries have like a lot of benefits, but I mean, there are other benefits from other fruits, and to be honest, who gives a shit what you're eating one fruit? It matters what you're eating for the whole day, for the whole week, for many months. It's like the same with training and exercise selection. Like, yeah, one exercise, you can't determine how good like your program is from one exercise. Like rack pulls, yeah, someone might do rack pulls, but they might just do this one thing, like, and then the rest of their program could be like really, really complementary. It's the same way with, I don't know, any of these exercises. You can't judge someone's program based off like one exercise, and I think often it works itself out.
And if you really break it down, and I think that this is something that we've discussed in the past about squats, so normal back squats versus hack squats, for example.
I can't hear you, sorry, Pascal.
Oh, it's all right.
I don't know what's going on.
Wait a second. I would just wait. Can you hear me now?
There we go. Can I hear you?
Can you hear me?
Sorry. My mouse disconnected, and then my AirPods disconnected.
But you can hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry.
Okay, cool.
Fuck.
I was just saying, this is something that we've discussed in the past with the comparison between back squats and hack squats, for example. Do you really believe that hack squats are inferior over back squats, for example, just because the back squats are a free compound movement? Right? You're going into a deep stretch, full range of motion. I would even say that the hack squats, if you really want to compare those two, is probably even better because you have the same movement pattern. You can probably even put more emphasis on the quads, and that's most of the time the reason why we're doing a movement like this, with less overall systemic fatigue, because it has a little bit less of an axial loading. And if you then boil it down, right, also there, it's from an detaching yourself emotionally from it will help you analyze and realize things in a more objective manner and make probably also reasonable and rational decisions, which then in return give you better results most of the time.
I think this works out quite nice, this like comparison to food, where it might be like, yeah, I mean, blueberries are great, but what if you're sick of blueberries? What if you can't stomach them anymore? You want to vary them up a little bit. Let's throw in some different foods. And now maybe that one's a bit like you're getting something beneficial from that other food. It's the same with any exercise.
Or you're
like maybe
allergic to blueberries, let's say. It's
allergic.
kind of the same for people who aren't really built for back squats and still insist on doing those. It's the same when it comes to blueberries. You have an intolerance or you're an allergy against them. Do you still insist on eating them and always feel terrible afterwards and be like, no, but blueberries are the best foods there are, so I need to have them?
Yeah, it's one of my biggest pet peeves at the moment is that kind of dogmatism towards certain exercises and frowning upon people doing other exercises. And in reality, it depends on what everything looks like as a whole over time.
And unfortunately, and it's something that people should be aware of by now, when it comes to social media, I'm a big fan of some of the aspects of connection to other people, maybe also interacting with people that you've never met before in life and perhaps even never will meet in real life. That can have a amazing effect of social media. But unfortunately, there's so many things that outweigh those positive things, in my opinion. And one is the lack of what's it called again? Lack of patience, and also the attention span being so low nowadays. And it has transitioned into shorter and shorter and shorter content. And there are just certain things that can't be covered in a 30-second TikTok video or so, right? And that's why you need to then have a more extreme stance, because it's also being rewarded by the algorithm. And people are then taking up more so extreme positions, because this is what creates kind of engagement and clicks and all that kind of stuff. And it's unfortunate, and it's definitely something that I don't really like. And it then falls back to something like the debate between maybe exercise selection. Maybe it's not so much in our kind of small little niche and bubble, but I could definitely see that this is probably a big issue with bigger influencers who are into lifting, and they are just, I'm not following all those kind of guys, but I could see that this is kind of where then the group is bashing the other group because someone else said something controversial, which is just, I don't know, a little bit unfortunate, but this is just what it is now. And you can either hate it, you can dislike it, or you can just like accept how it is, what it is. And I don't know, maybe if you want to complain, then complain and do something about it, and just complaining.
It is a tough one, because I do see some posts that immediately get my back up, and it's not knowing whether that person really feels that strongly that way, or actually they're just doing it because they know that's what gets rewarded via Instagram. Whereas for us, like, I even felt uncomfortable. I think I made a post the other day where I said, like, don't waste your time on a warm up. Yeah. And that was my initial intro. And then I went on to say, like, what I mean is not to not warm up, but don't waste time on the warm up. And I was like, even that little bit of like a hook made me feel guilty. And I was like, man, people are way worse than this.
Hey, it's crazy when you take a look at TikTok. Sorry for that. Twitter, for example. There are so many people doing, I think it's called engagement farming, where it's kind of that they are intentionally posting something that is highly controversial or will definitely piss people off, because they know that this will create a lot of engagement. And even if it's hate or so, it will bump their attention up. And by that, they will actually gain more followers and stuff like this. And I can definitely see that probably this is a strategy that can be followed by probably a lot of people even.
Yeah, I've seen it actually in the fitness industry with some people where they have quite strong dogmatic stances that grow them a following for various reasons and get them lots of attention, and then they really draw themselves back and they have a much more nuanced, much more balanced kind of opinion. And from the outside in, it can look like they just, I don't know, matured and got like more level-headed and were better educated. But I wonder if sometimes there is like an intent to that, where it's like, I'm going to build my name off something just to be like an asshole or dogmatic and get attention. And then once I've got the attention, then I'm going to like pull back and be more like nuanced with my way of saying things.
I'm not saying that I very much like that approach. However, I also have to give it to the people who are able to play the game.
Yeah.
Because it is definitely smart. If you really want to build a big following and benefit of it then later on, and have a strategy in place where it's like, okay, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and then later on, I'm going to transition more into a nuanced thing because I then have the following that I wanted and needed to actually then really focus on the actual things that I wanted to focus on. So it's not stupid, actually.
And then, you know, in the same way, they attract a larger audience and then educate them more properly. Maybe this is what we should do. I don't know what we would be dogmatic on. Maybe exercise selection. We just go out there and just start bashing various exercises.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not good at stuff like this, I think, because I'm not good at deceiving people or putting up a smile when I don't feel like it. So if people meet me in real life and I don't want to interact with them, or I have no interest in, I don't know, giving or being kind to them, which can happen, right? Then you can see it on me. It's not that I put out a smile, wear a mask, and then behind the back and be like, oh, fucking hell. Often you can really tell. And some people appreciate it, some people don't. It's also, I think, culturally dependent. Because I do know that people from certain countries, they say a lot of like, yes, and that sounds amazing and all that kind of stuff. And in reality, they hated it, right? And then there are people who are very straightforward and some people don't like it. But in the end, it's kind of the same outcome, but with different ways of approaching it.
Yeah, I'm bad for that, where like almost, I don't know, if I'm getting a haircut or something and they show me the back, fuck it. I might not even look at what he's shown me. I'll just be like, yeah, it's great. I'm done. Like, great, it's fine. Or if they come around and ask you how the food is, if it's like, all right, I'm still going to be like, yeah, it's good.
But I mean, in those situations, it's all right. Because you don't really want to make them feel absolutely shitty about that. But for example, when I really disliked the service that I received, then I definitely speak up. And I do know that in certain cultures, and this is also not even in Germany, it may even be the same, I don't know. But I do know that certain cultures, certain countries, it's very, very uncommon to then very much speak your mind when it comes to those things, which of course can create some tension if then two cultures clash. So for example, when someone is talking with me, they are then maybe from that different country where it's always important to wear a mask, be polite, be kind. And then someone like me comes around, they can immediately have the feeling that I'm just coming across as an arrogant fucking asshole, when in reality, I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just me.
It's more appropriate for, or like, I guess it's part of that is like a personality trait, but so environmentally influenced and genetically influenced, I imagine. But I would definitely put myself in that camp of I'm on the side of being a bit of a people pleaser, which is just doing it to protect myself, which I've learned. And I need to be better at speaking my mind and not just doing things because other people want to do them, and because that ultimately just hurts me when I'm trying to protect me from hurting someone else's feelings, and me getting that uncomfortable feeling that I've hurt someone else's feelings or whatever it is, you know. I imagine I haven't been there, but Japan and like that sort of culture, they're quite like, they're very like, thank you. And I just remember, this is an example, me and Charlotte were with my parents outside St. Pancras, and this woman who came and approached me, she was like Chinese, Japanese, sorry, I don't know. And she just like, she was like you've got a dog, would you like this dog food? And we're like, why? And she was like, oh, it's just because it's going to get taken away in customs and we're about to go. Please, like, would you take it? We're trying to find someone who has a dog that would like it. And I was like, oh yeah, sure, thanks. And she was just like, she was more thankful than we were and she was giving us the dog food. Right. She was so happy to be able to give us the dog food. And I was just like, oh man, they're so nice.
Yeah. In general, I think that this comes also back to then the fitness industry. And I've said it a couple of times that if the internet wouldn't give us the platform that we have, and we were to meet in real life on a gym floor or so, I think that every one of us would get along very, very fine and very nicely. And we would probably hardly ever have such strong disagreements about certain things. There would be way better and way more mature discussions around something, and you would be way more polite and respectful about the disagreements or the methodologies of someone else. People shout at each other. It's kind of like you have a megaphone in front of you whenever you're jumping on the internet, and you're just like screaming into the other's face with the megaphone in front of them. That's what it's like. And in reality, I think that most of us got into at least here in the small little niche that we are in to help people and to perhaps also share their anecdotal evidence and their experiences with then the people around them. Some people do it for other reasons and intentions, and that's maybe totally fine and legit as well, as long as, I don't know, we respect another. And I know this is kind of like a romanticization and also a pipe dream to some extent.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's ever going to happen. But maybe the next generations, they do start to learn to, I don't know, treat the internet like a better place and like a more normal place than we and our generation does.
You see this, and that's why some of the debates that we've had in the past or like roundtables have been so beneficial, because I think from the outside in, people think that these like educators really dislike one another and they have such different views, and then you get them on and they're really friendly and they agree on way more than you think that they do agree on, and it's always a really fruitful discussion for the most part. And but yeah, then you do get those people, again, we've spoken about this recently, just like jarring comments on social media where you're just like, this person knows who I am, they know that I have good intentions at heart, but every time I post, they come at me with something that's like, just like unnecessarily disagreeable. And I'm like, why is that? Like, I don't know who you're helping here, but sometimes you just have to take a step back, take a breather, and then like come back to it. But I could see people who can't do that, who can't take a step back, and they're just like, and social media can be a stressful place.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Are we splitting the episodes here today, Steve, because of the holiday and stuff? All right.
Yes, let's do that.
Then I think it's time for the first part to be over, and then we will be back in a week from now for you guys. And for us, it's just about 1 minute or so, and then we will be back. So guys, as always, thank you very much for tuning in. A little bit of a different discussion this time. Next time, I promise we will then delve more so into training aspect of things again. I though hope that the takeaways from Steve's experiences over the past weeks, they were helpful and valuable to you. And leave a like, leave a subscribe. And once again, as a reminder, we're in the midst of transitioning over to a different podcast host. So the Improvement Season podcast will at some point be on a different RSS feed. So it could be that you will not receive any kind of messages or notifications that a new episode is up. If that's the case, once it's happening, we will definitely announce it over on YouTube. But then please find the new one over on Spotify and other podcast providers, because then we have moved it over to a different RSS feed. So guys, I guess I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.
Thank you as always, guys.
Losing weight fast while maintaining muscle mass. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? It isn't though. It's reality, and we know how to do it, and we will help you achieve this. The Minicup movement is an 8-week fat loss program to make you lose a huge chunk of fat while maintaining muscle mass at the same time. We will support you from the beginning to the end so that you see the results you would like to and come out of it much stronger. You'll receive a fully automated spreadsheet that is based on your nutritional needs. You can choose between 6 different male and female training templates. Over 30 videos will guide you through each and every single step of the mini-cut so that you're getting the most out of your journey and that you always know what to do. But the best thing is that you can start whenever you want. The mini-cut movement is open 24/7. So if you want to learn more or you're ready to sign up, hit the link in the description below. So let's revive stronger together.